Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about the number 2 fundamental concept we must embrace in order to break free truly and long term from anxiety. So my name is 𝐟𝐮𝐬𝐭 Liu and I help compassionate people break free from anxiety so they can step into the joys of life. Last week, we went over the number 1 fundamental concept in order to break free from anxiety, and that was the fact that we are separate from our thoughts. So that means our thoughts and who we are 2 separate things. Now, we're going to build upon that. This week, we're going to talk about the fact that anxiety arises when our thoughts and beliefs are not true and accurate to what life actually is. So when there's that disconnect, what happens is that we get a lot of negative or uncomfortable feelings. And this is what the analogy I like to use is the fact that when we live life, we view life through a lens. And the lens that we view life through are our thoughts and beliefs. So last week we talked about our thoughts being just a stream of thoughts, just passing by, coming and going. So if our thoughts are a stream of thoughts, think of each thought as little packets or little lens, which we can choose to look through. And if we are looking through a lens that is not necessarily lining up with what we see on the other side, which is what life is, what happens is we get a distorted image. We get a distorted image because what we're seeing through our lens is not giving us a clear picture of what's behind all of that. And when we get that distorted image, what happens is that we become really frustrated. We become frustrated, irritable, and in your case, if you're watching this video, you probably have a tendency to get really anxious. So this is really important when it comes to anxiety, because if you can understand that it is the fact that these thoughts and beliefs are not lining up with what life actually is, this means that if you want to be able to address your anxiety, what you need to do is address your thoughts and beliefs. You need to make sure that your thoughts and beliefs are true and accurate to what life actually is. And when we talked about the number 1 fundamental last week, we talked about being separate from your thoughts. And by doing so, you're able to be mindful and observe your thoughts. And when you're able to do that and you practice and you get better at it, what happens is that you'll be able to identify which thought or which lens is actually not lining up to what life actually is. And when you're able to identify that is when you're able to take control of your anxiety, because you're able to identify, okay, this thought is not working, and now I have to sit down with it and think about, okay, what is actually true about it, what actually isn't, and from there, you can rewrite that thought. Rewrite that thought so it is actually true and accurate to what life is. And then you practice viewing life through those lenses, and that is where you get that true freedom from anxiety, because once your lens starts lining up, that is when you can break free from anxiety. So let me know in the comments below, type in number 1 if this is resonating with you. I also want to, before I wrap up, I want to just comment and give you some examples of what common ways of thinking often causes that disconnect. Common ways of thinking that causes a lens or a thought, a belief that doesn't actually line up with what we see that is true in life. So one distorted way of thinking, this is what in CBT, this is what they call it, is, an all or nothing approach. You either, things have to be completely done, 100%, or nothing at all, right? So that is one way of thinking that can cause these distorted images. And another way of thinking that is super common that causes anxiety is when we are thinking, we are mind reading. So this is when we are assuming what other people are thinking. We assume, your coworker is thinking. We're assuming what the world expects out of us. And when we're assuming, these are not necessarily factual. So if they're not necessarily factual, we are basing our thoughts and beliefs on things that are actually true in terms of life, true and accurate. So we have to be very mindful and careful in terms of how we are thinking. So I'm going to leave it like that. I want to know in the comments below if you've identified, do you self-identify with any of these common ways of thinking, all or nothing, or tend to mind read or assume what other people or the world expects out of you. Comment in the comments below, let me know. And if you have any questions, please leave them in comments. I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I will catch you guys next week, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.